Hello friends, my name is Shivam from DevOps Schools and I will help you to enable your learning process in various technologies of DevOps, artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data and many more. This is our initiative to help you by sharing multiple tutorials and videos. And if you want any specific tutorials on any particular topic, then please do comment in the below comment section and I will help you with it. Also, please subscribe to our premium services on YouTube, which will give you access to more content and videos to enhance your knowledge about all these topics. Also, if you want me to help you with regards to the online trainings and classroom sessions by our qualified trainers, then please do write me at contact@devopsschool.com. Thank you.
Now guys, next topic is how kubectl, remember this is for the workstation, okay? This is from the workstation. Connect to how kubectl works from workstation connect to API server. That's a question in my mind. I'm having it. So have you ever thought about it? How? Anyone has got the answer so far? How kubectl can talk to API server? If you want to understand my question in a better way, so let me depict this. See here, this is your cluster. This is your cluster: 1 machine, 2 machine, 3 machine, 20 machines, 30 machines, 40 machines. Now this is my laptop, and in this kubectl is there. In this kubectl is there. How this file, this tool will come to know your API server is here or here? Did you get my question? How?
It needs a URL, right?
But any other clue which you have seen so far? Any other clue?
Some DNS.
It needs some token. Some config you are putting.
So guys, look at my screen this time very carefully, so you'll get the answer what you missed in the last session. Okay, very carefully. So guys, utility is there, kubectl. You know, kubectl, what happens? Read one file. Yeah, read one YAML file. Okay, this is YAML file. This file name is called config. Okay, now the question is, okay, fine, kubectl by default read one YAML file and that is called config, but where is that file? So guys, usually that default location will be your user home and then .kube config. Yeah, so kubectl, whenever they try to read the config file, they look for that location. Means user home means any user using that you can running this command, and inside the .kube config. So now with this knowledge, can you see this line and see that if you're trying to correlate something? All of you, are you able to correlate something now?
Yeah,
Anyone?
copying admin.conf to cube.
Yeah.
So writes to.
Yeah. So guys, what happens when you create a cluster using init, okay, master cluster, then this file get created. I don't know how many of you have noticed that one. I don't know whether the output is gone. Actually, I cannot show you right now, but this file was created at that time. And this file has all the required information for login, for connection. And that is what we are doing, you know, being a normal user, create this directory copy that file because see here, because I decided to have a master and workstation in the same box. So here I did copy, but if you have a different machine, you do the SCP on copy paste, whatever it is via editor. So here you are copying inside this and then giving the permission. So the moment you do this, you get this file. So now can I show you that file first in the master workstation? So yes, this is my user ls-la.cube. You see here .cube. See config more.cube and config. See this file. This is the YAML file. Now guys, the reading is little difficult because it contains the certificate also. It's make this file very pretty large, but no problem, I'll teach you. So this file is important for connecting this. That means what happens pictorially, if I draw in this kubelet, there's one file called config. So this file, this utility uses config, and then they connect this machine where this information is here mentioned here. Okay, so now the question, next question in my mind I'm having is, what is the content? What is the content of config file? What is the content of config file? What is the content of config file? So the content of config file is having a proper structure. Guys, you know, when you get into the real time working with the Kubernetes, then you know what, you will have one Kubernetes cluster for your personal. Okay, and then you may have a one Kubernetes cluster for dev. You may have one Kubernetes cluster for production. You may have for the production 1, production 2. You may have for QA also. Many clusters you will work on it. So guys, the question is, how can I manage multiple cluster using config file? So guys, this skeleton, the one which I'm going to talk about, will help you this. So in this config file, it's a YAML file, mind it. You have a clusters, mind it, clusters S, and inside this is the basically list. Okay, and inside that you have a cluster 1, cluster 2, cluster 3. Now what is the number of cluster you have? You put it in this config file like this. So this will be having http 10.4.5.6 644 something like that, whatever it is, and this will be having some other port number, some other cluster. This will be having third cluster like this. So here you mention all the cluster at one place. Which file? This file. But guys, you know one thing, this cluster is okay, you got the IP address and port number and HTTP and all, but you need authentication, because not everyone can talk to API server. Remember, if anyone can talk to API server, so anyone can modify the desire and stuff like that. Okay, so anyone can modify. So for to avoid that any anonymous changes, we have a certificate based authentication. Certificate based authentication. Now the how this certificate based authentication works, I will talk about at the end of this session. I mean tomorrow, you as part of authentication and authorization. But here guys, you need a authorization. So we have a users section. In the YAML file, you have a user section, and here, whatever the number of users you have, you can write it here. User 1, user 2, user 3, and stuff like that. Now this user will contain the key plus this user 1, 2, 3. This user will contain key plus what? Key plus certificate. Okay, key plus certificate. So clusters, all the cluster you mentioned here, all the user you mentioned here. So now the problem you will face here, I have a 3 cluster, let's say 3 Kubernetes cluster. The problem here is which user is for which cluster? Where do you set this combination? Because I have a 3 cluster and I have a 3 users. So which user will do the which cluster, which user, which, yeah, so which, so that mapping this is decided in the context file, context. Okay, in the context you have context 1, context 2, context 3, and in the context what map you will have? Let's say cluster 1 in having user 2, let's say cluster 2 you have a user 3, and cluster 3 you have a user 1. So guys, now if I look at this skeleton, then you need to, I mean kubectl talk to the context. If kubectl uses this context, then you are talking to this cluster. If kubectl uses this context, then you are talking to this cluster, and like that. So you can customize which context you want to connect to over the command line of kubectl, but by default you can also set one current context, default context we call it current context. And let's say default context which you always wants to work with, most of the time you work with context 2. So guys, this way in this file, in this skeleton, you can work with a multi-cluster from your laptop. Did you understand that now?
Yeah.
So now guys, I would like to show you the same thing in this place. Look at this here. This is the, I talked about the clusters. Here you have only one cluster, by the way. You can modify, add more. This is the section. This is the cluster 1. IP address is this one. And here have a context S. Remember, there's only one context. And here you have a users, and there is only one user. Certificate is pretty huge. Now, if you want to see that this data in the short format, then kubectl config view. See here, this is the short format. You have a clusters, one cluster, contexts, context, one context, users, one user, and current context, which is default. So right now I have only one cluster, so this okay. You can add more cluster, the command line manually also you can add it. See here, in the context they specify the cluster name Kubernetes, which is coming from here, and then user, which is here, which is coming from here. So guys, now you understood that how kubectl get to know which APIs server need to talk to, which cluster it need to talk to. All of you are comfortable now?
Yep, I get it.
Okay, so now guys, after understanding this, I would like to know few things. What is your job? Your job is to know and get comfortable with, first of all, first you're comfortable with the kubectl, and second job is to know the desire, what you want. So some of the command I would like to run, and you have to check it out. Let's say if you don't know anything about the kubectl, just enter and you will get to know all these things about the kubectl. Now guys, I would request you all to don't rush, be calm, spend some time. Do not use but read. Basics command. Basics command intermediate, here it is a beginner. Deployment related command. If you are administrator, cluster related management command. Okay. If you are doing the troubleshooting, these are the commands. Some of the advanced command, some of the setting command, some of the other commands. So be comfortable one by one and go through this. Okay. You run and go through this. Read it. Probably you'll not use it. Now I want to know, okay, I have a config file. I want to know whether my cluster is up and running or not. Okay. So how do I check? So I will look for the command. Which command will help me out here? So if I see one command is a clustered info. So I run here, run this command, and you see here, that means from my workstation, I'm able to talk to API server successfully. You see here, control plane is running at this address. DNS is running at this. Wonderful. You see here some of the advantage here also you get. If you want to know the dump, you want to get the dump for the debugging and all, you can run this command also and you get the dump. So much information. Okay. So many things are there. Use it properly. Now I have a curiosity, which version of client, kubectl client we are using. So here if I put here, so see here, in your workstation, you are using this version 1.20. In the server, which kubectl you are using? 1.20. Both are same because it's just a new installation. But you will get at the official page one table, which client support which server edition. So those mappings are there. So by the way, we have installed the fresh one, so everything is matching. Okay. So this is the version you can check. I would like to know some few more commands. So here in the config itself, you don't like the VI editor to match the config. Config itself, you have so many commands to run. Look at this here. Manually, if you don't want to modify config file, you can modify through command line. So you can view the config. Just now I did this. You can add the users. You can add the context. You can add the cluster through command line. You can delete cluster, context, and user also. You can get the clusters also and get the context, get the users also. So for time being, I just want to get cluster. What is the name of the cluster? Kubernetes. Get the context is this one, and get user, I think admin, some Kubernetes admin or something. Kubernetes admin. Okay. So all these things you can set, unset, context also, and many things you can do that. So many commands are there. Just I'm making you comfortable with the setting of the context. Okay. So I run version, I run config, I run clustered info. Now what I want to know, how many nodes I'm having. I think I have run this command, still I'm running it just to make sure you get comfortable. I want to know how many pods we have. I will explain you all this thing little later, just making you comfortable. Whether it's running or not, please look at it. Okay. So these are the commands which you should run, become more comfortable with kubectl, because kubectl is the tool of yours which you have to work lifetime. Okay. So guys, did you understand that how to get started with this one? All of you?
Along with that, you can access our other tutorials such as Docker, Ansible, Jenkins, Terraform, Splunk, AWS, Azure, and various other DevOps related premium tutorials with our channel membership. If you would have any issues with our channel membership, you can drop an email to us at contact@devopschool.com, or you can also unsubscribe from channel membership anytime if you don't want to continue or did not like the video. To get our channel membership, click onto the join button, select the 3D99 plan and grow your skills immensely. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries. We will reply to them at the earliest. Thanks for watching.